Hi, everyone. Happy Thursday. Hi, Kimberly.
Hey Deb, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I think it's another beautiful day here in New York. So, yesterday was, and I hope today is as well. I'm going to try to get outside a little bit.
Good.
But happy to be here and be with you again this morning. And we are talking about a few things today, but I think the idea of Juneteenth and the fact that it became a federal holiday last week and then was celebrated by some companies very, very quickly, which was great. We're going to talk about that, but also what does that mean really? It marks a day as it should, but there's so much history behind it, literally and figuratively, and so much in the last year that has gone on that I think we felt this would be a really timely topic to talk about because we have over this last year been talking about this on and off in some way, shape, or form. So we felt like this was a good time to bring it up again, and it was timely. And what do you think?
Well, I think it's a really interesting subject, and I've talked to so many people who are, like myself, um, thoughtful about it. Right? Last year, let me go back. So there are African American families all over the United States who have celebrated Juneteenth for 100 years or more, right? Because we were told the stories, we know the history. But last year, on June 18th, a whole lot of people were like, "What is this Juneteenth? What does that mean? Teenth?" Right? And there was a lot of educating going on. And then fast forward to this year, there were still people who just didn't understand. They're like, "I don't. What is this Juneteenth? Why is it important?" And so, just to give a little perspective there, on January 1st, 1863, Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. That news did not get to Texas, Galveston, until June 19th, 1865.
And that was
And
the last
so
place to find out, right? Was that right?
last place to find out was Galveston, Texas, 2.5 years later. And there were still some battles going on, right, with the Civil War. And so while everyone celebrates the Emancipation Proclamation as ending slavery, it didn't end slavery completely. Slavery was not ended until June 19th, 1865. And so that is the true day of independence for African Americans in this country.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There are a lot of people who would not want us to teach that in school because they just want everyone to celebrate, July 4th from 1776, right? And most of us didn't learn about it in school. We learned about it from our families and outside books. But
Or where I told you
go ahead. Yes. And this was great. And you learned from Blackish.
from
Right?
Blackish, yes, from watching. I love that show, and
Yeah.
what I love about the show too is that it's first of all it's a great show and it's funny and the cast is amazing, but there's always a lesson in there, and I feel like I've learned a lot. And I come from a racial multicultural family, and we didn't ever talked about it, but I learned about it on TV.
Right. It's very important, right? And so, and to that end, not all Black families knew about it either. So fair is fair, right? Sometimes if you don't learn about it in school, you don't learn. But now that we know about it, we're a year later and a lot of people learning about it, and still people don't know. But hey, we woke up on June 17th and it was a national holiday, right? Like fast.
Yeah.
The last time we had a national holiday that acknowledged, African American history or contribution was MLK his birthday, which was in 1983. So long time, and fantastic. Now, here's the thing. What does that really mean? Right? Like, so for many companies, it meant, oh, wow, quickly, Thursday's national holiday. You guys have off on Friday. Or you have off on Monday. Either way, it's a long holiday because June 19th was on a Saturday. So that's great. People got a day off. What did they do with it? Some people did some community service. Some people went to the beach. Whatever you do on your day off is great. Other businesses acknowledged that, hey, we're a retail business, So our stores are open. So if you are an hourly employee, you're still working. Like, we're not giving you the day off, but we will pay you time and a half. It's great. Target did that. So people did different things. Some companies, some of my clients actually gave donations to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. I think that's fantastic too. They matched if their employees wanted to give money. I think that's great. But what? And what? What does that really mean? And I think that's the question we're asking today. What does that mean? And the question's important because does it mean, okay, we're acknowledging Juneteenth, all is well, we've done our part, we're not doing anything else? Because what had started last year, in addition to acknowledging Juneteenth, is that companies were putting focus on what is their makeup, what's the makeup of their teams,
Right?
How are they equitable? You know, is there inclusion? What does it look like past independent contributors? What does it look like at the manager's level? What does it look like at the director's level? And so the work was starting. Does Juneteenth end that work, or is it just a milestone marker and it's a catalyst to continue? Those are the big questions. And I think it's important to examine what could that mean for you?
Yeah, and how, you know, how is an individual organization handling it? Because really, I mean, it is a marker and it should be a marker, but it can't take the place of the work, you know. And I think over this past year, you and I have both been in and out of various organizations, and you see different levels of continuing the work. And I think it's important that we acknowledge Juneteenth, but it's like, what are you walking the walk, you know? And I think a lot of organizations are still working hard to find and make sure there is representation at every level. That still continues. And I hear that a lot because I'm out there, you know, I'm looking for work and I'm talking to a lot of recruiters and I'm talking to a lot of companies. And that's definitely still on the forefront. But it does make you wonder, like, what else is happening and what needs to continue to happen so this doesn't become like a one and done.
Totally agree. You know, for the longest, since last year, we've seen an amazing uptick in the number of directors and you know, chief DEI officers being hired. Right? I think you were just involved with this a search recently with that, and I think that's great because, of course, it's wonderful to have people get jobs. Here's the thing that I would caution corporations on: when you bring that person in, don't just put all of the responsibility on that person, right? They should be a part of the leadership team. They should be a part of the executive committee. And it should be, the onus should be on everyone on that committee to engage in the work to make sure that every organization in a company is looking at their hiring practices, looking at their promotion practices. How are you retaining talent? How do you even create a recruiting pipeline, and doing the work? And maybe it's time, instead of just plucking people and throwing them into positions to say that you've done it and check a box, to slow down just a little bit. Don't stop, but slow down just a little bit to kind of reassess, where are you? Where are the opportunities? And how do we fill them in a way that everyone is successful and we continue to grow our business? You know, when you put the onus on that one person or on the ERG to move your culture forward the way it should, then you add this burden to people who just don't have the tools to be successful. It's a total company initiative. It should not be on one person. And so I just say that to say that if you are still, or maybe this is your first, you know, endeavor of committing yourself to being inclusive, or you've been at it and you don't feel like you're making the moves, or, you know, people aren't staying, I think it's time to do some assessment.
Yeah.
Where are you? How can you do it better?
I agree with you. And I think it is critical that it becomes a full company strategy, or it has to be embedded into everything that a company does. And I think also in some way, like whatever the values are of the company, or whatever the company, what the goals are around this subject, have to also be embedded into people's reviews and into people's, you know, bonuses. And some, like, there has to be, you have to understand that this isn't something you just check off. Like, this has to be part of what we do going forward in order to make the company better and to impact the bottom line. I mean, we talk about that all the time, but it's better for business, and it can't just be one person carrying the flag.
Well, I think that's a great point. When you think about different departments in organizations, if you look at marketing, marketing has KPIs. Like, they have to hit certain KPIs to prove that they're being successful in driving the business forward. You know, if it's a production or sales, every department has KPIs. So I think that's the opportunity to create true KPIs. And I'm not saying quotas, because I know that's a bad word. And it is a bad word, because it creates this check the box, right? But I think we're smart enough that as business leaders, we come together and say, what do we want to stand for, right? Who do we want to be? What is important that people understand about our values? And then use that as a starting point to create KPIs. You know, if you should be reflective or representative of your customer base. Do you understand what your customer base looks like? Is there an opportunity in that customer base to grow, right? Or are you missing a part of the community, or, you know, your consumer potential because you've not thought about that group? There are ways to really be creative. And I also think, let's call a thing a thing. One of the things that I have been challenged with my clients, and this is more of my, you know, customer facing clients, like not all my clients are customer facing, but my customer facing clients, is that, you know, they're, from a marketing perspective, there are members of their teams who are very young and they think they should just market to everyone. Here's the thing. You have to know who your customer is. You have to know who your customer is. And when you are telling your story, it should be inclusive, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you just paint everything with one big brush, right? Mm-hmm. And just pluck people and throw it in. That is essentially quotas, and that creates tokenism. And that's not what we're saying. We're saying be thoughtful. Be thoughtful. Let Juneteenth be the moment that you reflect, so that you're moving forward in a thoughtful way.
And there's so many ways to do it. I mean, you could even like look at your recruiting group, right? Look at your recruiting department. And one of the goals can be that every slate for every job has to be a diverse slate. That doesn't mean that every single hire is going to be of any one group of people, but it gives more options. And the more options that people see and the more people that people meet, the more they realize, like, hey, there's a lot of really great people out here and I can put the best one in my job. And I think until you're given that option of a whole slate of people, so that's a KPI that can start the ball rolling in a way that's not a quota.
I totally agree with you, Deb. And it also, you know, doing that would also gives you a picture of who your organization is. You know, I said, who do you want to be? If you are given like a very broad group of people for each open position, and at the end of the day, you still are hiring the same person, then it shows you where the problem is, if there's a problem, so you can address it. Mm-hmm. So it being inclusive in your organization and your recruiting and your hiring and promoting, it helps, you know, to your point, it helps grow your business. It helps open your mind. And it also helps identify issues that might be in your culture that you need to address.
Yes, that are like institutional issues, right? That have been embedded from who knows when, and that's just the way we do things. And if you can stop it at the source, mm-hmm. can change it, and it will change. If you decide you want to change it, it can change. There's really no excuse. So,
right.
Well,
Right.
So any other thoughts? What's the bottom line on this?
Well, the bottom line is Juneteenth is now a holiday. That's a fabulous thing. But don't let that holiday be your stopping point. It should be your step off point to reflect and to re-energize, to be thoughtful as you continue to be inclusive and equitable in your culture and in your footprint to the world, and who you want your business to be. So again, don't let it be a stopping point. It should be a step off point.
Yeah, I think that is great advice that hopefully people will take to heart and have been doing the work, and hopefully will continue to do the work. So I think this was a good discussion. So next week, Kimberly and I are taking a little R&R. We're going to take a long weekend and do what we're going to do. I'm going away, so going to take my first plane flight. So
You'll
excited.
Be fine.
Yes, I know. I'll be all masked up, so it'll be okay. Yeah. So we're excited. So we'll be back on July 8th. And so we wish everyone a happy long holiday 4th of July weekend, as that is our next holiday coming up. So thanks for being here.
Okay, everybody. Peace out. Take care. Enjoy the holiday and be safe. Get paid. We'll see you in 2 weeks.